Now, the Federal Reserve has not had any earnings since September of 2022. Isn't that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Sure, it's
From
correct.
a net income
All
perspective,
you have to do is
you're
go,
right. But they've generated lots of fees and income. And I appreciate what you're saying. I'm happy to discuss this with you, but I think we've looked at this.
My point is every penny you've gotten under this congressional
I don't think
statute,
Congress wanted
every
the
penny
CFPB to be
that
suddenly
you've gotten,
defunded.
if I could finish my thought.
Sure.
I know you don't like to hear this, but the law is the law. You've been operating illegally.
No, that's not true, sir.
Yes, you have. There have been no earnings. Doesn't this put in jeopardy every one of your rules?
We've heard this
and
theory
every
before,
one
and I'm
of,
happy to
and
discuss it.
Well, you're going to hear it again because it's the law.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Capital Insights. Today, we're diving into an absolutely explosive congressional hearing that could shake up one of America's most powerful financial watchdogs. We've got Senator John Kennedy going head-to-head with CFPB Director Rohit Chopra, and trust me, the sparks were flying. Before we get into the drama, if you're into financial news and power plays in Washington, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to stay updated. So picture this. Kennedy starts grilling Chopra about something seemingly simple, the difference between revenue and earnings. Now, you'd think the head of a major financial agency would nail this economics 101 question, right? But Chopra's response was, well, let's just say it was less than crystal clear. He kept dancing around the definition, even comparing it to worker salaries. I mean, come on, we're talking about basic accounting principles here. Here's where it gets really interesting. The CFPB gets its funding from the Federal Reserve's earnings, not revenue, but earnings. Kennedy drops this bombshell. Since September 2022, the Fed hasn't been earning money, they've been losing it. And if you're enjoying this breakdown of financial drama, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. Trust me, you won't want to miss our future deep dives into Washington's financial world. Now, this is where things get spicy. Kennedy essentially accuses the CFPB of operating illegally. Think about it. If the law says they can only get money from Fed earnings, and there are no earnings, how can they legally get any funding? Chopra's response? He repeatedly dismisses it as just a theory, but Kennedy wasn't having any of that. The hearing then takes an unexpected turn into big tech territory.
What's the difference between revenue and earnings?
Well, these are all used colloquially. Sometimes those are similar. In GAAP accounting, which is what most U.S. companies use.
Don't tell me about GAAP. Just tell me your understanding of the difference between revenue and earnings.
Well, I can share with you revenue and net income. So those are the two factors that when you say are on financial statements.
Earnings is another word for net income.
Well, earnings can be used for many different things, but in generally accepted accounting principles, net income is what all of our banks are really using.
Okay. What revenue is before expenses and earnings, net income, is after expenses. Is that
No, I think like when people go to work, they say, my earnings were this. I mean, that's their salary. So I think we tend to look at accounting definitions.
They may say that, but when you analyze a financial statement, you look at expenses, don't you? You don't just equate revenue with earnings, do you?
Oh, totally. And I think your suggestion that we think companies are too profitable, we think about competition.
I understand.
What are the options people have
here's
in order to...
Here's what is confusing me. We all know, unless you were playing Frisbee on the quad during Econ 101 or Accounting 101, there's a difference between revenue and earnings. I want to ask about the way you're funded. I looked at Congress's statute. I'm looking for it here. It says, here's how you're funded. And you just won your lawsuit in the Supreme Court. Each year, beginning on the designated transfer date, in each quarter thereafter, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, where you get your money, shall transfer to your agency from the combined earnings of the Federal Reserve System the amount determined by the director to be reasonably necessary to carry out the authorities of the Bureau. It says the combined earnings, not the revenue. Now, for the longest time, the Federal Reserve was earning money. But that stopped in what, September of 2022? Now, they are losing money. They don't have any earnings. They're no longer transferring earnings to the general fund. And the Supreme Court based its decision on saying that this funding scheme is constitutional under the Appropriations Clause by saying that these earnings would go to the general fund from the Federal Reserve, so getting them directly from the general fund is no big deal. How are you entitled to any money right now? The Federal Reserve doesn't have any earnings.
Well, we've heard of this theory. I think it's one of the latest
It's
ones
not a
that's
theory.
being
It's a
pushed.
congressional
Well,
statute.
I think there's you raised the difference between revenue and net income. There are other places throughout our laws. I can tell you we've looked at this issue. We do believe wholeheartedly everyone is complying with the statute.
I know you believe that, but if you look at what, if you
I'm aware with what you said,
if you
revenue
read,
and net
if you
income.
read the, if I could just finish my question.
Sure.
If you read the opinion, and I did, and you read the statute, it says here, bigger than Dallas, the federal, you can only get your money from the Federal Reserve out of earnings. Now, the Federal Reserve has not had any earnings since September of 2022. Isn't that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Sure, it's
From
correct.
a net income
All
perspective,
you have to do is
you're
go-
right.
is go-
But they've
go-
generated lots
go
of
ask
fees
OMB.
and income. And I appreciate what you're saying. I'm happy to discuss this with you, but I think we've looked at this.
My point is, every penny you've gotten under this congressional
I don't think
statute,
Congress wanted
every
the
penny
CFPB to be
that you
suddenly
have gotten, if I could
defunded.
finish my thought.
Sure.
I know you don't like to hear this, but the law is the law. You've been operating illegally.
No, that's not true, sir.
Yes, you have. There have been no earnings. Doesn't this put in jeopardy every one of your rules?
We've heard this
and
theory
every
before,
one
and I'm
of
happy to
and
discuss it.
well, you're going to hear it again because it's the law. We didn't say revenue in the statute. We said earnings. How can you possibly argue that the Federal Reserve has had earnings? They're losing money.
I'm happy to discuss this with you, but we
They briefly discuss PayPal and Chase Bank, with Chopra expressing concerns about censorship and companies using your transaction data for advertising. It's fascinating how these financial regulations intersect with our digital privacy. The tension in this hearing was palpable, with both sides trading some pretty sharp remarks. This could have massive implications for the CFPB's future operations and their ability to enforce regulations. If you found this breakdown helpful, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of finance enthusiasts. Also, let me know in the comments what you think about this funding controversy. Could this really shut down the CFPB's operations? Drop your thoughts below.